In the shining alien city of Blindstar, Princess Azza Eldara returns in secret to confront those who betrayed her and reclaim her stolen throne. She believes an old family ally will help her, until a confrontation at the gates of a royal castle turns violent. Struck down and humiliated by a young alien noble, she warns him that her husband is human, and humans in this galaxy are feared for good reason. Far from home, Michael, a human soldier with a dangerous past, will do anything to protect her. But as political lies spread and enemies close in, the two are drawn into a spiraling conflict that will test their loyalty, love, and their willingness to kill for each other. The fate of a kingdom, and their bond, will be decided by the choices they make in blood and shadow. The twin red suns hung low in the alien sky, their light catching in the golden veins that ran through Blindstar's ancient stone pillars. Towers crowned with silver domes rose in spirals, linked by marble bridges and glittering walkways. Merchants called out in melodic alien tongues, peddling spices that steamed in the heat, sending waves of scent into the crowded air. Azza Eldara walked among them like a shadow. Her hood concealed most of her silver hair, but the blue of her skin and the faint glint of her emerald eyes slipped free whenever she glanced around. Her dark travel robe was plain, a sharp contrast to the jeweled silks of the wealthy. She moved quickly, weaving between nobles, traders, and beggars alike, climbing higher toward the city's upper rings. Every step brought her closer to Thivu Castle. Every step also carried the memory of Michael's last warning, spoken with that quiet, stubborn intensity of his: "They will betray you again. I know it. And I won't be here to pull you out next time." She had argued, insisting Lord Evu would never side with her sister, Ima. He had been her teacher, her confidant, almost a father to her. He would help her reclaim her throne. Michael's doubts had cut deep, but she would prove him wrong. The upper ring was breathtaking, fountains spilling water over black marble, archways carved with the history of her people, doors framed in solid gold. And yet, to Azza, it all felt like a mask covering rot. The castle loomed ahead, a massive structure of black stone inlaid with curling rivers of silver and gold. 4 guards stood at its gate, armor black as obsidian, etched with protective sigils. They stood like statues, their gold-tipped plasma spears glinting in the sunlight. Azza stopped just short of them. Her hands were hidden in her sleeves, but she could feel the weight of the human-made pistol Michael had insisted she carry. She had scoffed at the idea before, now it felt like a small, solid comfort. The tallest guard's voice rang out, metallic through his helmet. "State your identity and purpose." "I am a friend of Lord Evu," Azza replied evenly, keeping her hood in place. "Tell him I wish to see him." "Lord Evu sees no one without prior arrangements," the guard said. "Especially not cloaked strangers. Leave." Her patience thinned. "I have known him since childhood. Tell him." The guard's tone hardened. "Leave, or be removed." Michael's words echoed in her mind: "They will betray you," but she pushed them aside. Slowly, she reached up and pulled her hood back, letting the red sunlight fall across her face. "You deny entry," she said, her voice rising with regal steel, "to Azza Eldara, your rightful queen." The effect was immediate. The guards stiffened, their weapons lowering, and the captain dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty, we believed you dead." "The rumors were exaggerated," she said coldly. "Now, summon Lord Evu." 2 guards hurried into the castle, and for the first time that day, relief softened her shoulders. She had done it. She would prove Michael wrong. Minutes later, a figure emerged from the gate. But it was not the elder statesman she expected. It was his son. Lamari Thivu, tall, broad-shouldered, his blue skin flawless, his long ears adorned with gold. He was dressed in ceremonial silks, his smile perfectly rehearsed. She remembered him well, an arrogant, entitled youth who had once tried, and failed, to court her. "Azza Eldara," he said smoothly. "The dead walk among us." Her relief vanished. "Where is your father?" Lamari's smile sharpened. Age claims us all. He died, around the same week you disappeared, if I recall. Unfortunate timing. You expect me to believe that, she said, her voice icy. The guards shifted, uncertain, as she turned to them. As your queen, I command you to arrest this man. Lamari laughed. Arrest me? On whose authority? For all we know, you are an impostor. His gaze locked on the guards. Detain her. The guards hesitated, but moved. You side with my sister, Azza hissed. Lamari ignored her. If you keep your face hidden from others, I can protect you, here. His eyes raked over her in a way that made her skin crawl. He stepped closer, his hand brushing her neck. The pistol was in her hand before she had thought. Step back, or I shoot. Lamari chuckled. That little thing. Too small to hold a real power cell. She squeezed the trigger. The crack echoed off the courtyard walls. Lamari staggered back, blood spraying from where his right ear had been. The guards aimed their spears at her, but Lamari's snarl cut through the ringing in her ears. You'll pay for this. And then his fist struck her across the face. Pain exploded through her skull. She tasted blood as she hit the stone. The husband, he sneered. No one would take you as a wife. You're a walking target. Azza's hand found the pistol again. She rose, aiming at him with steady fury. You're wrong. My husband is a human. And you'd better pray the rumors about them are exaggerated. She turned and ran. The guards gave chase, but their heavy armor slowed them. An energy blast cracked against a wall near her head. She darted into narrow alleys, winding down forgotten paths she had played in as a child. The noise of pursuit faded. When Michael's ship came into view, half hidden behind a row of houses, her chest burned with relief. The ramp closed behind her, sealing her inside the small, dimly lit cabin. Michael looked up from the pilot's chair, his expression unreadable, until she pulled back her hood. His eyes widened at the sight of her bruised face. What happened? He demanded. Azza stepped into his arms. You were right, she whispered. But now it's personal. Michael's arms tightened around her. For a moment, neither spoke, the hum of the ship's systems filling the silence. Then he pulled back, studying the swelling on her cheek, the thin cut under her eye. Who? He asked simply. Azza hesitated. She wanted to tell him everything immediately, but the look in his eyes, the controlled stillness, made her choose her words carefully. Lamari Thivu. Lord Evu's son. He's taken the castle, and he struck me. Michael's jaw flexed once. And the guards? They sided with him, she said bitterly. They chased me through the lower streets. He told them to detain me, like some criminal. Michael stepped away, crossing to a storage compartment near the rear of the cabin. You said his name was Lamari? Yes. He opened the compartment, revealing a rack of human weapons, sleek, matte black rifles, sidearms, and cases marked with faded military symbols. He took down a long rifle and began checking its parts. Then he's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. Azza's pulse quickened. Michael, I told you, he interrupted, sliding a magazine into place with a click, I don't do warnings. I don't make threats. Someone touches you, they don't get to walk away. She stepped toward him, her voice rising. I don't want a war, it's not a war. It's an execution. He met her gaze, and she saw no hesitation there, no flicker of doubt. Her mind spun. She knew Michael's past, rumors of his service on distant human battlefields, his skill as a marksman. But she had never seen him this cold, this certain. He slung the rifle over his shoulder and grabbed a compact drone launcher from the shelf. Small, mechanical devices, like white, folded wing insects, sat neatly inside. Stay here. Lock the ramp. Don't open it for anyone but me. Ozza grabbed his arm. Michael, wait. His eyes softened a fraction. Be careful, she said quietly. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Always. He was gone a moment later, the ramp closing behind him. The streets of Blindstar's upper ring were alive with evening traffic as Michael moved like a shadow between buildings. His human armor was a patchwork of scavenged alien plating and old military composites, the rifle strapped across his back. His eyes scanned constantly, noting guard patrol patterns, camera locations, open vantage points. Reaching a rooftop that overlooked the castle's main courtyard, he went prone, extending the rifle's bipod and attaching a small device to the scope. The device linked to his drones, already deployed in the shadows below. Through the scope, he saw Lamari reclining in a cushioned chair on the castle balcony, attendants tending to a bloodied bandage over his missing ear. He was laughing, holding a glass of some pale blue drink, surrounded by guards. Michael's thumb flicked a control on the rifle. The drones stirred below, wings unfolding with a faint metallic whisper. They rose into the air, dozens of them, gliding upward in a lazy swarm. Down in the courtyard, a guard frowned, pointing. Lamari squinted at the sky. What is that? Michael's voice came through the communicator on Lamari's table, transmitted by a drone that had landed there without anyone noticing. That? Just a few friends of mine. Don't worry, they're harmless, unless I'm in a bad mood. The guards tensed, weapons raising. Lamari grabbed the communicator. Who are you? You don't need my name, Michael replied calmly. You just need to know this, you hit the wrong woman today. Realization flickered in Lamari's eyes. The human, he muttered. That's right. Michael's voice was even. And I'm here to make sure you never touch her, or anyone, again. The first shot cracked through the air. One of the guards dropped instantly, helmet collapsing inward. The courtyard erupted in shouts. Plasma bolts lanced toward the rooftop, but Michael was already moving, rolling to a new position. Drones swooped down in tight spirals, drawing fire away from him. Each one that fell was instantly replaced by two more from the launcher hidden nearby. Lamari ducked behind a stone column, barking orders, but the swarm adjusted, hurting him toward the edge of the balcony. Another guard went down, his body tumbling over the railing. Michael's voice came again, quieter now, like the edge of a knife. You've got seconds left, Lamari. You want to use them begging, or just scream? Lamari snarled into the communicator. You think you can kill me in my own home? Human, you don't understand, the second shot silenced him. Lamari jerked back, a red spray marking the stone behind him. He collapsed to his knees, hands clutching his neck where the bullet had torn through. The communicator clattered to the floor. The drones descended like a white storm, surrounding him, wings flashing in the fading sunlight. Each one carried a charge, small, but lethal at close range. Michael's finger tightened on the trigger for the third and final shot. Lamari crumpled sideways, unmoving. In the silence that followed, Michael's breathing was slow, steady. He dismantled the rifle, packing it into its case. The drones hovered for a moment longer, then scattered into the night, vanishing into the city's maze. He slipped away from the rooftop, moving through alleys and shadows, until the castle was far behind him. When he returned to the ship, the ramp lowered with a hiss. Ozza was waiting, her eyes searching his face. It's done, he said simply. Her throat tightened. She wanted to ask how, but part of her already knew. Instead, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Michael let the rifle case drop to the floor and pulled her close. For the first time since she had fled the castle, she felt safe. But deep in her chest, a new fear stirred, because now, Emma would know she was alive. And her sister would not hesitate to strike back. The royal palace of Blindstar rose like a mountain of obsidian and gold, its spires cutting against the night sky. In the throne chamber, a dozen courtiers stood silent as Queen Emma Eldara sat upon her seat of polished black stone. Her emerald eyes, so much like Ozza's, were colder than the marble beneath her feet. Before her, a trembling servant knelt, blood still drying on his sleeves from carrying Lamari's body. "You're certain?" Emma's voice was smooth, deliberate. "Yes, Your Majesty," the servant stammered. A human killed him." "The same human the impostor," Emma rose so sharply that the servant flinched. "Do not call her my sister. She died years ago." Her words were steel, but her hands tightened imperceptibly on the armrests. "If anyone claims otherwise, they are enemies of the throne." She stepped down from the dais, silk robes trailing like liquid shadows behind her. "Where is the communicator Lamari carried?" The captain of her personal guard stepped forward, holding out the cracked device. "Damaged, but recoverable. The human's voice is recorded on the palace network." "Shall we broadcast it?" Emma interrupted. "But not as it is." Her eyes gleamed with the spark of an idea. Hours later, every public screen across Blindstar flickered to life. Citizens paused in markets, taverns, and homes as Emma's face appeared. "Citizens of Blindstar," she began, her voice steady and warm. "I bring grave news." The image shifted to a still of Lamari, smiling in better days. "Lord Lamari Thivu, your friend, protector, and loyal servant of the crown, has been murdered." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the gathered crowds. "The killers," Emma continued, "are a savage human from the outer worlds, and a woman claiming to be my late sister." Her tone darkened. "This impostor has manipulated the human into her schemes, using violence and terror to disrupt the peace we have worked so hard to build." The screen changed to grainy footage, Michael's voice, clipped from Lamari's communicator, spliced with the sound of distant gunfire. The edits made it sound like he was threatening civilians, speaking of making examples. "This," Emma declared, "is the danger they bring. If you see them, report immediately to the nearest guard post. Harboring them will be treated as treason." The broadcast ended, leaving only silence, and fear, in its wake. Back aboard Michael's ship, Ozza had been pacing since he returned. She had not slept, every sound outside set her on edge. The main console beeped, and the AI announced, "Incoming public broadcast." Emma's face filled the screen. Ozza's fists clenched at her sides as she listened to the lies. Each word was a dagger twisted deeper. When the manipulated recording of Michael played, her breath caught, because it was convincing. Too convincing. Michael stood beside her, arms crossed, jaw tight. He didn't interrupt, didn't react until the broadcast ended. "Guess that answers whether she knows you're alive," he said. Ozza turned to him, anger burning through her fear. "She's painting you as a monster. They'll be hunting you now, not just me." Michael's voice was calm, but his eyes were like steel. "Then we don't stay here." She stared at him. "Leave Blindstar." "This is my home, and it's a trap now," he said bluntly. "She controls the guards, the gates, the streets. If we try to hide here, she'll find us. We need distance." Her chest ached. Every street, every archway, every market stall, she had known them since childhood. To leave was to admit she might never return. Michael must have seen it in her face, because his tone softened. "This doesn't mean we're giving up. It means we choose the battlefield." 2 hours later, the ship lifted off under cover of darkness. Michael flew low, keeping to the shadow of the cliffs beyond the city walls. Below, clusters of searchlights swept the night as patrol craft fanned out over the desert. Ozza sat in the co-pilot's seat, her hood drawn over her face. "Where will we go?" "Somewhere far enough that they can't reach us fast," Michael said. "I've got a few places in mind." "Old stations, abandoned refueling depots," the AI interrupted. "Long-range scan detects multiple aerial contacts, vectoring toward our position. Estimated intercept, 4 minutes." Michael's hands moved over the controls. "They're moving faster than I thought." On the rear display, Ozza saw 3 small gunships closing in. Bright flashes lit the darkness as the first volley of plasma fire streaked toward them. Michael rolled the ship sharply, the shots missing by meters. "Hold on," he said. Ozza gripped the seat. "Can we outrun them?" "No. But we can outfly them." The desert blurred below as he dropped altitude, skimming just above the dunes. Plasma bolts scorched the sand behind them, sending fountains of molten glass into the air. One of the gunships broke formation, diving to flank them. Michael's fingers flew over the console, activating the drone launcher. A dozen white-winged machines burst into the night, spiraling toward the pursuers. The nearest gunship's shields flared as the drones detonated against them, forcing it to veer off. The second pressed in, firing relentlessly. Michael banked hard toward a jagged ridge, threading the ship through a narrow canyon. The gunship followed, and clipped its wing on the canyon wall. The explosion echoed through the stone corridors, lighting the canyon in fire for a brief moment. The third ship was still behind them. Ozza's eyes locked on the weapons panel. "Let me." Michael hesitated only a second before nodding. She slid into the gunner's seat, gripping the twin joysticks. The targeting reticle flashed red as she centered it on the last pursuer. "Now," Michael said. She squeezed the triggers. Twin beams of coherent light lanced out, cutting through the night and punching straight into the gunship's forward section. It spiraled down, disappearing in a fireball. The console went quiet. No more contacts. Ozza's breathing was fast, but her hands were steady. Michael glanced at her, and for once, there was no trace of his usual guardedness, only respect. They didn't speak much as the desert gave way to empty plains, then the dark expanse of the open sky. Stars glittered above, unblinking. Finally, Ozza broke the silence. "When Ima lies like that, people believe her. They see me as an imposter. You as a killer." Michael kept his eyes on the horizon. "Then we find proof she's lying. And when we show it, we make sure the whole planet sees." She looked at him, really looked at him. This human, who had come into her life by chance, who had risked everything for her without hesitation. And she realized she was already thinking of him not just as an ally, but as something more. The planet on Michael's charts was marked only as Virion 6. No trade routes, no colonies, no data beyond a single warning: uninhabitable, abandoned research outpost. When the ship dropped out of hyperspace, Ozza understood why. Below them stretched a cracked, ash-gray landscape, dotted with jagged mountains and black seas that barely rippled under a heavy, smothering sky. Lightning crawled across the clouds, flashing without thunder. Even from orbit, the air looked toxic. Michael's voice cut through her thoughts. This place was a mining world. Atmosphere processors failed decades ago. Nobody's come back since. "Except us," Ozza said quietly. He smirked faintly. "Exactly." They descended through the dense clouds, the ship's hull groaning under the turbulence. The landing struts touched down on a flat expanse of stone near the shadow of a crumbling tower, the remains of the research outpost. The air outside was deadly, so they donned sealed breathing masks before stepping onto the barren ground. The wind was cold and dry, hissing through the twisted remains of metal structures. "This is worse than I imagined," Ozza murmured, her voice muffled by the mask. "That's the point," Michael replied, scanning with a handheld device. "No one will look for us here." They crossed into the outpost's main building, a massive, skeletal frame of steel and shattered glass. Inside, the air was stale, the walls lined with abandoned consoles. Dust coated everything. Michael set down his pack and began unpacking supplies: a portable power generator, rations, and a comms interceptor. Ozza wandered further in, her boots crunching over debris. At the far end of the main hall, she found a sealed door, its surface marked with faint carvings. Her fingers brushed them, and she froze. "These are Erisur script," she called back. Michael joined her, glancing at the markings. You're sure? Yes. This symbol here, she traced it with a gloved finger, means truth. And this one means record. Michael studied the door, then the panel beside it. If this is from before the abandonment, we might get something useful. It took nearly 2 hours for him to bypass the rusted locking mechanism. The door hissed open, revealing a narrow corridor lit by the faint glow of long-dead emergency strips. At the end of the corridor, they entered a small chamber. Rows of crystalline data vaults lined the walls, each one etched with more Erisur symbols. Michael stepped forward carefully. These could be historical records. Ozza's eyes narrowed. Or evidence. She began examining the vaults, reading fragments aloud. Most were technical logs, equipment shipments, atmospheric readings, but then her hand stopped on one marked with the royal crest of Blindstar. This one, she whispered. Michael helped her remove the vault and connect it to his portable reader. The holographic display flickered, lines of alien text scrolling past before resolving into an image. Ozza's breath caught. The recording showed a royal council chamber, her council chamber, years ago. Her father sat on the throne, with Ima at his side. They were speaking to Lord Evu, and to a young Lamari. The audio was faint but clear enough to hear her father giving orders to delay emergency repairs to the outer colonies. The colonies where thousands would later die. Michael's jaw tightened. This could ruin her. Ozza's hands trembled as she replayed the moment. If the people knew my father let that happen, they'd question everything Ima's built since. And if she was part of it, she'll lose her throne, Michael finished. They worked late into the night, transferring the recording to multiple drives. Outside, the wind howled against the tower, but inside the generator hummed softly, casting warm light over their makeshift camp. Ozza sat on the floor, back against the wall, watching Michael check the rifle he kept within arm's reach even while seated. You never let your guard down, she said. He didn't look up. Can't afford to. You've been like this since I met you, she continued. Always ready for a fight. Always expecting the worst. He glanced at her then, the corner of his mouth twitching. And you've been the opposite. Walking straight into danger because you believe someone will help you. She smiled faintly. That worked out well, didn't it? I found you. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind outside was a low, steady moan. Finally, Michael set the rifle aside and moved to sit beside her. Ozza, back on your world, when you called me your husband, she looked down. It scared Lamari. It scared me, too, he admitted. Not because I didn't want it to mean something. But because, he searched for the words. Humans don't take things like that lightly. Where I'm from, it's a promise. And I've lost too many people I've promised to protect. Her chest tightened. And if I promised you? His eyes met hers, steady and unflinching. Then I'd fight for you until my last breath. The air between them was charged now, not with the static of the storm outside, but with something deeper, quieter. She reached up, pulling the mask from her face. The air's bad, Michael said quickly. I know, she whispered, leaning in until their foreheads touched through the thin barrier of their masks. But I'll survive. We both will. For a long moment, they sat like that, the world beyond the walls forgotten. The next morning, Michael was already packing when Ozza woke. The storm outside had worsened, the sky a swirling mass of black and silver. We have what we came for, he said. Now we get it off this rock before someone finds us here. She nodded, helping gather their supplies. But as they reached the ship, a distant glint in the clouds made Michael stop. Through the scope, he saw it clearly, an incoming shuttle, its hull marked with the royal crest. They found us, he said. The wind whipped around them as they climbed the ramp. The engines roared to life, dust and ash spiraling away. Ozza gripped the console as the ship rose into the storm. On the radar, the shuttle was closing fast. Michael's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Hold on, Ozza. This is going to get rough." Lightning split the black sky as Michael's ship climbed, buffeted by crosswinds so strong the hull groaned in protest. The radar showed the royal shuttle closing in fast, its sleek frame cutting through the storm like a predator. "They'll have a squad inside," Michael said, eyes locked on the readouts. "At least 6. Maybe more." Ozza tightened the straps on her harness. "We can outrun them." He shook his head. "Not in this weather. And their engines are clean, they're built for high-atmosphere maneuvers. Ours isn't." The shuttle drew closer, flashes of its navigation lights flickering through the clouds. Michael flicked a control switch, deploying a spread of white-winged drones. They burst from the launch tube, instantly whipped away by the wind. A few caught the currents, weaving erratically through the air. "They won't last long in this storm," he muttered. Ozza looked at the display. The shuttle was aligning for weapons fire. "They'll shoot us down. Not if we're too close for them to risk it." He pushed the throttle forward, driving straight toward the incoming craft. The violent buffeting of the wind made the controls buck under his hands, but he held the line. The comms channel hissed to life. A cold, female voice cut through the static. "Ozza Eldara. You will power down your vessel and surrender the recording you stole. In exchange, your execution will be swift." Ozza's eyes widened. "Ema." Michael's hands didn't stop moving over the controls. "Don't answer her." But Ozza's jaw set. She leaned toward the comms mic, "Still pretending you care about swiftness, sister. I've seen what you do to your enemies." A soft, humorless laugh came from the speakers. "Enemies? No, Ozza. Only traitors. And you've allied yourself with the most dangerous kind of all." Her tone sharpened. "A human." The word carried venom. Michael's lips pressed into a thin line. He banked hard to avoid a burst of plasma that lit the clouds behind them. "She's stalling. Trying to rattle you." Ozza's mind raced. If they let the shuttle catch them, they'd be overwhelmed. If they fled, they might make it off-planet, but the recording would never reach the people of Blind Star. She turned to Michael. "We can't just run. We have to get this recording out. Even if it means, don't," he cut in sharply. "We're getting out together." The shuttle was almost on them now, its forward cannons glowing faintly through the rain. Michael's fingers danced across the weapons panel. "We've got one chance. We get close enough to latch a drone onto their hull. It'll transmit the recording to every open network in the system." "That's suicide," she said. "Only if I miss." The gap between the two ships closed in seconds. The storm tossed them both, but the shuttle stabilizers kept it mostly steady. Michael timed the roll perfectly, dipping under the shuttle's belly and skimming so close that Ozza could see the glowing edges of its shield projectors. He fired the drone launcher. 2 drones shot forward, wings folding to narrow their profile. One slammed into the shuttle's hull and magnetized instantly. "Signals live," Michael said. On the radar, the shuttle banked sharply, trying to shake the drone. "They know," Ozza breathed. "They can know all they want. The signal's already bouncing off satellites." Michael pulled the ship into a steep climb, engines straining. "Now we just have to survive long enough for the upload to finish." The shuttle gave chase, plasma fire slicing through the clouds around them. One shot grazed the rear stabilizer, making the ship shudder violently. Michael fought the controls, swearing under his breath. "We lose another stabilizer, we're done." Ozza leaned forward, eyes scanning the storm ahead. "Head for those peaks." Through the haze, jagged mountain spires rose, their tips lost in the black clouds. The narrow valleys between them were choked with swirling mist and lightning strikes. Michael didn't hesitate. "Hold on. They dove into the mountains, the shuttle following close behind. The peaks flashed by, barely visible until they were past. Lightning forked across the ridges, illuminating the canyon walls for a heartbeat before plunging them back into darkness. Plasma bolts exploded against the cliffs, sending rock shrapnel clattering against the hull. The AI's voice broke in, signal upload at 72%. Come on, Michael muttered. The shuttle surged forward, close enough now that Ozza could see movement in its side airlock, shapes of armored soldiers preparing to board. Michael, I see them. He banked hard into a side canyon so narrow that the ship's wingtips nearly scraped the walls. The shuttle followed, and that was the mistake Michael had been waiting for. Fire in the hole, he said, and hit the release. A cluster of drones shot backward, exploding in a brilliant cascade of light and shrapnel. The shockwave hammered the shuttle, slamming it into the canyon wall. One of its engines flared and died, sending it spiraling down into the mist below. Ozza gripped the edge of her seat, heart pounding. Is it? Before she could finish, the AI announced, upload complete. Michael let out a slow breath. Then Blind Star knows the truth. The climb out of the canyon was rough, the storm fighting them every meter. But at last, the clouds began to thin, and the black void of space opened before them. They broke atmosphere, the turbulence falling away into the deep silence of orbit. Ozza unstrapped herself and stood, bracing against the gentle sway of the ship. She moved to stand beside Michael, looking at the stars. It's done, she said quietly. He glanced at her. Not yet. Your sister's not going to give up because of one broadcast. But now the people will question her. And that's how it starts. Ozza turned to face him fully. You fought for me every step of the way. I didn't ask you to. I didn't even know if you would. Michael leaned back in his seat. You didn't have to ask. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she reached down, took his hand, and squeezed. Then let me be clear now, wherever we go next. I'm not leaving your side. His fingers tightened around hers. Good. Because I'm not letting go. The ship angled toward the stars, leaving Virion 6 and its storms behind. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and a war they hadn't chosen, but would finish together. For the first time since she'd set foot back on Blind Star, Ozza felt something close to hope. And beside her, she knew Michael felt it too.